Good morning. It's the Operations Committee meeting of the 8th of March. Can I get a roll call, please?
Yes, good morning. Director Matt Sampson,
Here.
Director Jed Smith,
Here.
Vice Chair Ranjiv Kush,
Here.
Chair Larry Russell,
Here.
and absent today is Director Monty Schmidt.
Thank you. Can I get a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Thanks. Roll call.
Director Sampson,
Yes.
Director Smith,
Aye.
Chair Kush,
Aye.
Chair Russell.
Aye. Public comment on non-agenda matters.
There are none.
Okay, I need a motion to approve the minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Director Sampson,
Yes.
Director Smith,
Aye.
Chair Kush,
Aye.
Chair Russell.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, Capital Improvement Program 2024 Sir Francis Drake Boulevard Pipeline Replacement. That ought to be exciting.
Yes, it will. Good morning, directors. Alex and I, Director of Engineering, here this morning to present this project is Hagar Nagash, our Assistant Engineer. So I'll pass it over to Hagar.
Okay. Good morning, directors. I'm Hagar Nagash, Assistant in Design. This morning, I'm here to present the 2024 Sir Francis Drake Boulevard Pipeline Replacement Project. This project is located along Sir Francis Drake Boulevard, Broadmoor Avenue, and Saunders Avenue, all within the town of San Anselmo. This project will be installing approximately 4,510 feet of 12-inch, 10-inch, 8-inch, 6-inch, and 4-inch pipes, along all with all the appurtenances to replace the old leak-prone piping installed as early as 1924 as part of the district's capital improvement program. The district has been coordinating with the town of San Anselmo and Marin Transit Authority regarding this project. The project requires advanced traffic controls plans, which will be updated throughout the project as the pipeline installation advances. The district and the town of San Anselmo will continue to work closely throughout the project and make any adjustments as necessary to help minimize the impact of commuters. My engineer's estimate for this project is $2,260,000 and is scheduled to last 198 days with a completion date of October 31st, 2024. District will receive an open bid for this project on March 26th. If bid documents are acceptable, staff will make recommendation at a future regularly scheduled board meeting for contract award. The staff recommends action is for review and refer to the board with the Operation Committee's recommendation to proceed with this project. Thank you.
Thank you. Are you going to take traffic around it or
The
leave it
contract,
on the road?
we don't know yet. The contractor is going to be getting the traffic control plans, and it has to be approved by the town of San Anselmo, but that will be done before the project starts.
This is a pretty tricky stretch.
Yeah, but most likely we'll try to keep the traffic on Drake, maybe down to one lane because it's really impactful going to the side streets in the community. So that's going to be the preferred alternative we'll be looking at, but we'll definitely be reviewing that with the town.
Yeah, plus it doesn't look like there's any really good parallel connection. So
Yeah, it's going to be very difficult, but a very needed project.
I live on one of those side streets,
Oh,
right in
Ooh.
the center of this activity. So obviously we're going to benefit a lot in the long term, but I'll keep you updated on how traffic management is going.
no pressure, Hagar.
maybe
no
we can do
pressure,
that
Hagar.
piece first.
Right, yeah.
Get it done with. Okay, any other questions?
Maybe just Alex, I think on Tuesday we had an update on the pavement pilots that we're hoping to initiate with some of the jurisdictions to see if we can manage pavement replacement costs. Is there any opportunity to look into that as a part of this project, or is that going to be completely independent?
It's kind of an independent thing altogether, but we're still working with the town of San Anselmo on the restoration for this project. But all these things are considered, and usually San Anselmo has been pretty amenable with our coordination and discussions as far as what the restoration is going to be.
Okay. I did see the director of public works recently for the town of San Anselmo, and if it's helpful to just continue that dialogue with them to see if to ensure that we're getting the best possible sort of collaboration with respect to pavement costs. Please keep that in mind. Something to pursue.
Okay, thank you.
Cool. Any public?
I just had a quick question. Two questions, actually. One, the first one is thank you very much for incorporating the assessment for the recycled water component of that based on the distance from the current pipeline or infrastructure. Is there a metrics that's used to determine whether it would be feasible or not? This one says 5 miles, but is there a break point in terms of deciding yes, no recycled water infrastructure as part of the project?
That's a interesting point, Director Sampson. We always evaluate distance, but as far as where the break point is, I don't know.
I'm
Might have to, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think we have
Yeah.
sort of a published breakpoint, Director Sampson. But typically recycled water would be considered when you're in the region. So sort of proximate. So instead of miles, it would be feet of pipe.
Okay, great. No, thank you for that. That's helpful. And the other thing, I mean, these projects are really exciting to get moving, especially with all the infrastructure money we're putting into the budget. It'd be great if we could advertise something along the line, when we put up a sign when we're doing this work too, as part of the continued effort to catch up on, pipeline that needs to be replaced. But I'm glad to see this moving forward. Thanks.
Thank you.
Any public comment?
There are none.
Okay. Can I get a motion to move this to the board?
Motion to refer this to the board for a resolution.
Thank you.
Second.
Okay. Granada Drive.
Okay, still here. So Zach.
Chairs.
Yeah. So Zach Talbot, acting engineering manager of design, will be presenting this item today.
Thanks, Alex. Good morning, directors. I'm here to present the Granada Drive pipeline replacement project. This project will install approximately 10,230 linear feet of welded steel pipe to replace 68-year-old leak-prone cast iron pipe in the neighborhood of Granada in the town of Corte Madera. My engineer's estimate for this project is $4,250,000, and bids are scheduled to open on April 2nd. This project will be constructed in coordination with the town of Corte Madera's street paving program. This joint effort with the town will reduce pipeline road restoration requirements and reduce the overall impact to the community. The district and the town of Corte Madera have agreed of a pavement reimbursement fee that will be paid at the actual contract bid items amounts for the limits stipulated in the proposed reimbursement agreement. Staff will return with the final reimbursement agreement for board approval, along with the contract award at a future regularly scheduled board meeting. This project is scheduled to last 332 days with the completion date of March 14th, 2025. If all bid documents are acceptable, staff will make recommendation at a future regularly scheduled board meeting for contract award. The recommended action is for review and refer to a future regularly scheduled board meeting for contract award for the Granada Drive pipeline replacement project and approval of the cooperative reimbursement agreement with the town of Corte Madera. Thank you.
Thank you, Zach.
Yeah.
Any questions? Public comment?
There are none.
Okay, can I get a motion to move this to the full board?
I'll make a motion
moved.
to review the Granada Drive pipeline replacement project to the full board for review and consideration for a resolution.
Second.
Okay,
Thank you.
Okay, the next one is, we're gonna change again, huh?
Yeah.
Bontempi connection.
So this morning we have Alicia Irish, planning engineering manager, presenting this item.
Hi, Alicia.
Good morning. Good morning, directors. Today I'm here to give an update on the Phoenix to Bontempi Connection project. The Phoenix Bontempi Connection Project is an early action project identified in the Strategic Water Supply Assessment. This project will give the district the ability to use Phoenix Lake water more frequently without the intensive system modifications that we have today. To date, staff have completed a preliminary engineering study, including water quality analysis, geotechnical work in relation to rapid drawdown capacity of the reservoir, and a condition assessment of the Bontempi Tunnel, which is the inlet to Bontempi Lake. The geotechnical work confirmed the maximum pumping capacity of 3 MGD with a reduction to 1.9 MGD at lower lake levels to minimize reservoir embankment erosion due to drawdown. Staff have also retained Hazen and Sawyer to perform the electrical engineering component needed for the new pump station. As a result of this preliminary work, a preferred pipeline alignment has been identified along Phoenix Lake Road and Fish Grade to connect Phoenix Lake to Bontempi Lake. Pump storage is one aspect of this project and present complexities that staff need to better understand, particularly the stability of Phoenix Lake Reservoir as the lake level is drawn down. The stability of the reservoir is already limiting the size of the pump station to not exceed the 3 MGD drawdown rate. Staff are working on evaluating what the long-term implications of cyclic drawdown and filling could have on the embankments, along with the estimated energy production and life cycle cost. Staff will continue to analyze pump storage for this site, as it will not change the sizing of the pump station and pipe for this water supply project. District staff have also been working closely with Environmental Science Associate, ESA, in conducting the environmental review and preparing documentation concurrent with the design phase. Staff will be filing the draft initial study, mitigated negative declaration, ISMND, during the week of March 11th to start the public review period, and plans to return to the April 30th board meeting to hold a public hearing for the proposed adoption of the ISMND and project approval. The recommendation from staff today is for the board to review and refer to a future regularly scheduled board meeting to consider adoption of the ISMND and approval of the project.
Would you happen to know at that pumping rate what the reservoir level drop is per day? It's a pretty small reservoir, huh?
Yeah,
I think we'd probably have to look at
Yeah,
that just to see
we-
what that rate is.
we know
It's
that.
like a half inch or more?
I'm not sure. So we'll have to evaluate that as well.
Yeah, I'm just curious because I've never seen a qualification like that. The geotechnical review has determined the pump station flow rate. That seems like kind of an odd one.
Mhm.
And what's the situation with the dam there? It's still down at 50%, right? The level?
Oh, Phoenix Dam? No, it's operating at current capacity.
Right, but didn't we drop it? I thought dam safety hassled us about that Earthville Dam.
So I think you're referring to, and I think it was in one of the earthquakes, and the dam slumped 6 feet.
Yeah.
And there was a reduction in the storage capacity of the reservoir, but it's been at its current normal
at that.
operating. Yeah, it's at its normal operating for us and has been for some time. So we haven't had any further reductions in storage capacity.
No, but it would be nice to not have that, huh? To go back. I mean, that's a really low hanging fruit if we could achieve it, in the sense that it's all you got to do is get the dam passed and it comes, you don't have to fill or anything.
I think
you know?
in our discussions, it sounds so easy. But yeah, it would be, I think, a challenging project for us. And as you noted, it is a relatively small storage facility for us. So the gain maybe, but it's worth something.
But we're putting
considering.
in this system, so, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an interesting question. It's very tricky, you know, what the stability of that dam is and what the quality of its construction was at the time. And plus, you don't want to really fight with dam safety.
Mhm.
Any other questions?
Yeah, a couple of comments, sorry. First, Alicia, thanks for that update. Thank you for including, a little bit of a update as well on, where how we're thinking about pump storage. I've you know that I'm really interested about, and I've spoken to you more previously about this. I just want I've heard comments from people regarding, the value of pump storage in terms of energy production, because it may not provide that much or enough to warrant the potential investments. I just wanted to make sure that everyone understands that really the goal for pump storage is to provide a battery so that renewable energy providers have a way to manage fluctuations or intermittencies in their energy production. It's not necessarily to produce more energy or cheaper energy for us as a district, but it's really a strategy for allowing again, clean energy providers to store energy when they are able to produce it with an excess, so that they can then, benefit from that stored energy when they're not producing energy, particularly at night. If it's a solar farm or when it's calm, in the case of wind energy. I've seen, California has a goal for completely decarbonizing the grid by 2045. And that's actually achievable with about a 5-fold increase in renewable energy sources. So I'm not sure that expanding renewable energy sources is so much the limitation for decarbonizing. A bigger limitation may be managing the intermittencies, because those renewable energy sources are only going to be online at certain times of the day. I've seen predictions that the periods during which there will be very little energy production, if we go completely to renewables, can be up to 15 hours a day, or 15-hour periods, when we just don't have sufficient energy production. So batteries for storing are going to become a big part of this, and pumped storage is actually one of the more kind of potentially productive and cost-effective ways to manage those intermittencies. It's not uncommon, I believe there are over 40 pumped storage systems now operating in the United States. I think as we're looking at the feasibility, a key component will be speaking with MCE and other clean energy providers to see what benefits we can provide to them through that, and their interest in potentially co-investing. My concern with Phoenix Lake is not that the pumped storage is not going to be feasible. It's more that it may not be sufficient. The amount of water that we can store and then release is not going to make, it's not going to be cost effective over, say, a lithium ion battery bank, right? We may have more possibility if we can look at Alpine and Kent Lakes, and something we could consider if Alpine Lake maybe becomes a candidate for a dam height increase. But I hope as we come back to this pumped storage discussion in more detail, there's an ability to bring in the perspectives of MCE and other renewable energy groups that might be looking for pumped storage opportunities. Again, we're a little bit unique in our layout of reservoirs, where they're not very far apart, and there is considerable head between some of them, which are sort of the ideal condition for pumped storage. So, any opportunity we have to also speak with clean energy providers would be helpful. Thanks.
Thank you for that comment.
Do you have any idea what the reverse direction flow max is in that pipeline? Is it we got a pump to put the 3 MGD up. You think we can get 3 MGD down?
That's a really interesting question that staff has been thinking about. We're not sure of the answer at this time, but it's definitely something we're looking into.
And what would the intake structure look like in the reservoir, in the upstream reservoir?
There's just a lot of added complexities when you start to incorporate something like the pump storage in, but we do know that the framework of the water supply project won't change and it's sort of a separate endeavor to incorporate the pump storage.
Yeah, I think you'd have to have an intake tower. I don't see any other way to do it. I mean, how would you keep the discharge underwater? You know, so that you could get suction back unless you discharge into making intake tower an exit tower, but it'd be kind of complicated, I think. And the other thing, just, you know, don't get excited about 3 MGD because I think you mentioned there's 40 others, or someone mentioned there's 40 other ones. My guess is the smaller ones are 1 billion gallons a day, just as a number, you know, because I mean, they're 10-foot diameter pipes and things like that. It's 3. Whatever happened with our inline one on the Fairfax Bolinas grade pipe? That didn't go, did it?
Didn't go, no.
Didn't go.
We did have a study with UC Davis and I think that's languishing.
Yeah, that study completed it. It started to look at some potential opportunities for
Yeah.
like a micro turbine. We've also had some other preliminary conversations with other consultants about potential sites. It did narrow down to a couple, one of which that you mentioned, and I do think it's worth revisiting those sites because they did offer better opportunities for greater flows. So perhaps Phoenix is not, you know, the optimal site to initiate a micro turbine, but certainly there's other locations across our infrastructure that could be good candidates.
Of course, it does, Alicia, give you the advantage of being able to put the water up there and bring it back.
Right.
It's a
So,
little different.
right.
Mhm.
But we would, I think, evaluate this site against some of the other potential candidates to just make sure that we're making the best decision.
'Cause I would imagine the flow rate peaks in the Fairfax line are probably 5 MGD plus, probably higher than that. So, you know, and it's there all the time, huh?
Mhm.
This was a project to eliminate the pressure reducing valves. So instead of just burning the head off, you'd actually try to recover it, but it's tricky with this small. We're so small that it's hard.
Yeah, I think, Larry, to your point, it's good to differentiate between storage for
Yes.
energy providers versus energy production for our use or for others, right? Two very distinct things. So good for everybody to keep that in mind. I agree, Larry, that it seems unlikely that the size of Phoenix Lake is going to be, you know, going to be supportive of a pumped storage opportunity. But, you know, the possibility maybe of Alpine and, you know, to Kent is something to consider as well, particularly if it brings in some co-investment for one of our storage enhancement projects.
And keep in mind that a fire hydrant, a 4-inch fire hydrant at a full rip is 2 MGD. Just to put things in perspective with the kind of flows we're talking about. It's just not that much water, unfortunately, but it's an interesting idea. We'll see how it goes. Like I say, I'm very, very interested in what that discharge structure would look like, because that one seems pretty complicated to me.
Mhm.
Okay. Any other questions?
No, but Alicia, I did bring this for you.
Oh, thank you.
So just so that you know, it stays front and center. So I do want to hand this to you.
Okay.
Okay. Public comment?
Yes, we do. Mr. Ed Jamison, please.
Yes, thanks. I don't recall seeing an estimated cost per acre foot for the Phoenix Bontempi project, at least not for well over a year now. It seems like the cost must be very high, reflecting the following. First, it would only enhance water availability in drought, likely every 8, 12, or 20 years, and then only when a significant storm could be predicted 3 or 4 days in advance to begin pumping. The volume pumped in those few days would be limited by pump capacity. And finally, the lake is tiny and could be lowered only minimally lest lake edge trails collapse. Assuming a 30 or 40-year life, I don't see how the cost per acre foot could be acceptable with likely drought water capture so limited. Before we spend more money on studying this, it may be worthwhile to take a cut at the expected cost per acre foot used only in drought. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ed.
There are no further speakers.
Okay. And I get a motion to refer this.
So moved.
I'll make a motion to refer the Phoenix environmental review of the Phoenix Bontempi Connection Project to a regularly scheduled board meeting to consider adoption of the initial study, mitigated declaration, and approval of the project.
Second.
Thanks. And Ed's comments have concerned me too. You know, it is a lot of money for a little bit. You know, we do it and we've done it routinely. Do you remember the last time we did it? It's probably a few years ago.
2021, Director Roble. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, in the report, it's noted that there is possibility for collaboration with the county on flood control management through this project. And it may not seem that significant, but I was surprised to hear from the county engineer that they believe that because Phoenix Lake was drawn down in 2021, it contributed to the absence of flooding when we had that, 70 inches of rain in the 21-22 rainy season. So it only takes a couple of inches, right, to provide the difference in creek levels between, flooding and no flooding. And so even small detention basins like Phoenix Lake add value to that. So if the county does in fact collaborate, as is suggested in the report, in the management of the financial management of drawdowns, and if we are able to really benefit from weather predictions that we're anticipating both through FURO and the enhanced collaboration with Scripps, there could be important factors for moving forward beyond just the water supply consideration.
We danced a fair amount with the county on this issue. I pushed it really hard because I thought it was a great idea. And they basically just said they weren't interested. That's what I remember. After we danced a lot, I mean, a couple of good sessions, and then they said, it's too small. I think that's what the gist of their complaint was. It just wasn't enough to make a difference, or was its location was a problem, I think, too, on the creek.
I think, you were talking about the release of water with
Emptying
county,
the reservoir to
emptying
make
the
it
reservoir.
available,
And
yeah.
so this is just a different, I think the county, there were implications for the dam stability on that particular occasion. And so this is slightly different in where we're managing the velocity, the rate of drawdown to that 3 MGD. So it doesn't provide those sort of slumping challenges for us.
But it wouldn't provide the volumetric benefit to the creek either.
It does if you're, as Director Kush was indicating, if we, pump it down in October.
Right, but then we have the problem of the slumping and, once we drop the water level, things changed hydrodynamically inside the reservoir.
Yes, but if we control the rate at which we're dropping it, so we would in advance, September, October, use that time period to draw the reservoir down. And if the county were paying for it, then as Director Kush said, then we've got some operational benefit. They're going to receive the benefit of, if there's an AR that comes in, it's going to shave the initial peak off of that AR and provide kind of valuable hours for the rest of the system to distribute that flood water.
And you think at 3 MGD, we could make a dent?
Well, that's what we used last time, and we ended up, I think, pumping for a couple of months. I don't remember the.
Yeah, so it turned.
Well, I understand that on supply, but I'm talking about volume for flood control.
Yeah, so it turned out that 2021 was an unintended case study. That was actually pretty successful.
Some of the best plans come.
Yeah. So we actually, from the county's data, we showed that the peak of the hydrograph was reduced to
Well, that's cool.
potentially prevent some flooding. So it was, pretty favorable and received well by the county. So there is some interest in developing an operating agreement after the project is in place.
Oh, good.
To kind of do what Director Kush is saying, to pump prior to the rainy season with the intent that the lake is lowered before the storms.
Would we try to avoid first flush?
I don't think so. I
Okay.
mean,
No, in fact, we would probably be getting first flush.
Yeah, of course, the problem with first flush is it's first flush. You know, think of it like the toilet, huh? You know, first flush.
It's our pristine watershed, so we're,
Well, but it's coming off of the
no, I
city,
understand.
huh? You know, so we've got dog shit and those kind of things that are going to be there.
In Phoenix, no,
No?
it's pretty rural up there still.
So it's
The
intercepting
watershed.
before it gets into the main
Yes,
part of the creek. huh?
yes, yes.
Oh, that's good.
So it's still pretty pristine. And typically when the ARs come in, it is a small reservoir, so it'll probably fill right up. It's just that process of filling up gives them valuable hours to sort of shave that initial peak. Where at full, the full AR would just pass through to Lower Ross Valley. And
Like it has for
like
years
it
and
has
years
for
and years.
years and years. But as Alicia said, our unintended case study, and it's a dramatic shaving of that peak if you've not seen.
Well,
other
of course,
graphs.
that's where the problem is, huh? It's that the peak is where you get the
Yeah.
bridge impacts and the
Yeah.
flooding and
And to your earlier point, right, this would benefit the first AR. At 3 MGD, it would take us some
Right.
time to recover in order to be able to,
course.
help with the next AR.
course.
So, but anyway, it's still, I think it's an interesting project, so more to come.
yeah, sounds like the management side of it may be a little difficult to me. Just, I mean, 3 MGD is just such a small number to be useful. I mean, it gets there eventually, but it takes a long time.
It's, roughly a 350 or so usable volume acre feet in the reservoir, and 3 MGD,
Right.
about 300 acre feet a month. So it's, 4-week pumping.
Yep.
Maybe 6.
Well, it's about equivalent to the Russian River inflow, huh? The normal, maybe a little half that, huh? So 5 or 6 MGD coming through Russian River. Yeah, it's so funny. I work with people like the city of New York. I was remembering I was talking to the gentleman that's been attending, Jack Kinney, and I remember the first table I got from the city of New York was it had single digit numbers and double digit numbers. I went, what is this to cost? Billions. Yeah. So it's running down like 2, 6, 4, 12 total. All right. What is that? 12 billion. Oh, 12 billion.
Hey, Alex, I have a quick suggestion for the board meeting when it comes up. It would be good when we have these larger pipeline investments that we're doing in our infrastructure to just give a little context. We do X amount per year. Here's our criteria for coming up with which ones are first. These are the ones that are happening now. This is why we're approving it. These are the next ones on the list. These are big dollars. So always bringing a little context for us and for the public, I think will be helpful. So it doesn't seem like just a one-off, decision.
I think that's great, Jed. And also, I think we should add on Ed Jamison's comment. Let's put the dollars per acre foot in. What does it hurt, right? I don't know what term you use the acre foot over. Is it 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years? That's the tricky part of that kind of a matrix or a parameter to determine what the performance is. Just like the reclaimed water, when do you cut it off? And this has exactly the same problem. Over what period of time? Do it over 1 year, it's going to be pretty high.
Mm-hmm.
Do it over 100 years, doesn't look so bad. I suppose one argument would be the life of the pipeline could be argued as that period of time. Don't worry about that one too much. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So you're off the hook for a bit, Alex.
Yes.
Brett gets to take the hot seat. The nice thing about the operations committee is it's kind of more relaxed, a little less intense.
Good morning, directors. My name is Brett Uppendahl. I'm the finance director. I'm joined here today by Brad Taylor, who is our information technology manager here at the district. and we are here to provide you with an update on our process for our ERP software modernization efforts. And we'll go into what exactly ERP means as part of this presentation. Just as a reminder, this is a long process, and staff is kind of just beginning to do our scoping here. So we're here to share an update with the board on where we're at, let you guys know what the next steps are likely to be in the next few months. But this is just an informational item for the board today. So the four topics we'll be covering, we'll give a little background on what is an ERP, enterprise resource planning software. We'll talk about a little bit about the evolution over the last 20 or so years and kind of what the main drivers are for modernizing ERP software. And then we'll talk about our recent engagement with Gartner, where we took a look at our business case and any options that we have going forward. And then finally, like I said, we'll give you a summary and we'll talk about next steps for the board to expect in the coming months. So with that, I'll turn it over here to Brad Taylor.
Great. Thanks, Brett. Good morning, directors. Again, Brad Taylor. I'm the Information Technology Manager. I've been with the district for about 6 months now. A good portion of that has been a deep dive into our ERP implementation. We have been running on SAP since the early 2000s, so about 23 years on the current platform. And we've actually implemented several updates during that time. The current software version is slated to be end of life by December of 2027. This is actually not only end of life, but end of support. SAP is encouraging all their customers, obviously, to move to the new platform.
I wonder why that is.
Yeah. The shift is, and I'll provide some more context around this, but the shift is fairly major. This isn't just sort of a point release or a minor upgrade. The new version of SAP is designed to be a cloud, delivered via the cloud, a SaaS application, and it has a totally different architecture, essentially.
Does that mean we no longer have a server?
Correct. We would not maintain infrastructure on premise. It would be completely cloud-based.
So we're kind of in for a dime, in for a dollar, huh?
Exactly. So we chose to engage with Gartner Consulting. This seemed like a rather big decision for the district, and we wanted to get an objective third-party, opinion, some expertise. And actually, I'll introduce some folks who are here with us today from Gartner Consulting. Aisha Matthews is on site, sitting in the gallery back there. She's a senior consultant with Gartner, has spent the past 7 years providing business solution analysis, software implementation, and integration architecture for state and local government agencies across California. Mitchell Johnson is also joining us via Zoom. Mitch is an expert partner responsible for Gartner's ERP consulting services practice. He's been working with ERP solutions for over 30 years and specializes in ERP strategy and selection for Gartner's state and local public sector customers.
Brad, where's Gartner based?
Gartner headquartered. Aisha, where's your Sacramento?
Sacramento, okay. And have we worked for them before?
Gartner, we've leveraged their services a couple times, we actually subscribe to their research product and solutions. You guys may have heard of the Gartner Magic Quadrant. It's kind of what they're known for. They do analyze different market segments and technology and different, solutions and provide, sort of roadmap information about how the trends in the various sectors.
Cool.
Oops. Let's go back. So just some context initially, what is an ERP platform? It really is just a collection of functional software. I like to think of it as sort of the central nervous system for the district. We have leveraged our ERP solution pretty heavily across all aspects of our operations. And that's evident if you look at this sort of eye chart here to show you that SAP is really, we use it in human resources, we use it in finance. It's central to our supply chain management, maintenance management, and also billing, customer information systems, et cetera. So we really are using it across the organization. We adopted in early 2000, 2001, and the evolution of these ERP solutions has gone through several waves since then. you know, initially they were introduced in the mid 80s and early 90s as a collection of best of breed solutions. And you can kind of see here, these are loosely coupled sort of modules. When we adopted SAP, they had moved to sort of a monolithic model where basically the application did everything. I have that little pin stuck there because we are really still firmly in the monolithic model. We haven't moved on, although the industry has evolved. They then moved on to sort of more of a federated model. That's when cloud services came to bear and became really important. And the ERP system sort of became the central backbone and sort of federated and coordinated with all these other services external to the organization. The newest model and the newest architectures are what's being referred to as a composable system. And the composable system is really defined by a collection of integrated services and applications that are all tightly integrated and all tightly integrated with a common data fabric. So in a way, the pendulum has kind of been swinging back and forth, but we've, you know, kind of been stuck strictly in this second wave and still continue to operate to this day.
Does SAP run their servers in the United States or they're in Germany?
They are partnering with, they call them hyperscalers, but they're really public cloud providers. So the big names, Amazon, Google Cloud Platform, and also Azure, Microsoft Azure. So we would have our choice.
One more question along those lines.
Sure.
This is very useful. I
Oh,
find
sure.
this very informative. Does the use of the cloud make us more vulnerable? Because now it seems to me we're sort of putting all the eggs in one basket, whereas today we have our eggs in our own basket.
Right.
We're going to give that basket to SAP and say, okay, you take care of us. But that means the Russians and the Chinese and all these folks know where that basket lives. Where they probably know where our basket lives too, but they're not interested in us, but they might be interested in us if we're part of a bigger.
Right. I would make the argument that we're actually safer when we go to cloud, primarily because there are, you know, there's a discipline and standards and also resources dedicated simply to cybersecurity. We don't have a security operations center here at the district. We don't have people who are strictly 100% focused on cybersecurity and hardening of systems. So while it does seem, you know, it seems less safe to be going external, we're going to a more modern platform that's more highly managed and also monitored and maintained. The difficulty we have with on-premise solutions, you know, we only, it's difficult to keep up with the adversaries. It takes time, it takes resources that we just simply don't have.
Yeah, I fully concur. The cloud computing is long proven to be much more secure, much safer, and having to manage and deal with our own systems and our own hardware is an archaic way of doing it. So this is the right call.
Yeah, I was going to ask Brad later why you didn't mention improved security as one of the attributes of moving to this new system in addition to speed, performance, and analytical services. Because I agree, it's going to be a lot easier for the Russians and Chinese to get into our on-site server than to get through Amazon and Google and Azure.
True. Well, if we look at the various drivers for this initiative, you know, mitigating risk is really the first thing that comes to mind. And I do mention the fact that if we continue to operate on an unsupported platform, we open ourselves up to operational risk, but also cybersecurity risk. But good point that, you know, moving to cloud actually improves our security posture. The other driver obviously is to sort of empower our people. You know, the new platforms incorporate a lot more self-service capabilities. Right now, you know, we have the situation where with our legacy solutions, there are certain people on staff who are sort of the experts and the go-to folks. So if I want a report written, I go to this particular individual to help me. You know, the challenge we have there is people retire, people win the lottery, people move on. And a lot of that sort of subject matter expertise has sort of left the district already. So empowering folks to do their own work, improve the overall user experience, make it more intuitive, make it more, you know, easier to use, make it more flexible, more adaptable. We're gonna get a lot more value out of the platforms. That's another driver. And then lastly, you know, we kind of can enhance the overall work environment by sort of embracing this digital paradigm of doing work, and encourage folks to innovate. I get a lot of suggestions from folks like, well, it would be really nice if our SAP system could do this. And and hopefully by moving to a modern platform, we'll be able to actually realize those benefits.
And is there thought yet about whose platform, SAP, Oracle?
Well, and that is why we brought Gartner into the picture. We sort of wanted to engage with again, an objective third party who had some subject matter expertise and across the industry, across the sector, to advise us on that fundamental question: do we upgrade or do we replace? And so that's really the fundamental question that was posed to Gartner when they came engaged with us was, should we stay the course, upgrade SAP, or should we actually look at some other options? Because in that evolution of the industry in the marketplace, there have been mergers and acquisitions. There have been disruptive players who've come up to the fore. Some of those disruptive players have been acquired by some of the more legacy platforms. So it's really, it's a very dynamic environment, and we were really hoping Gartner to give us that detailed analysis. Recognizing the fact that this is a fairly risky endeavor, it touches so much of our organization and our processes and our daily operations. Gartner, analyzes a lot of the success rates of a lot of these projects, and their research tells us that less than 25% of these projects are completed successfully. They're either abandoned completely. I don't know if there've been some, news items about the city of San Francisco abandoning a payroll ERP effort in the San Francisco Unified School District. The projects are either late, over
County
budget.
of Marin.
County of Marin. That's a good one, close to home. The thing that was interesting to me is that when you look at sort of the key causes for failure in these implementations, it really isn't about the technology. It tends to be more about the people. So in that convergence of people, process, and technology, encountering some resistance to change is something that we're kind of anticipating, potentially, running into folks who are sort of indifferent and really, resist that change, and really setting forth a really clear vision for why we're doing this.
Brad, I like to say, if you don't know where you're going, it's hard to get there.
That's a good one. I will use that. So we engaged with Gartner, and in a very compressed time frame, we asked them that question: is it better for the district to stay the course, upgrade, or should we look at alternative options? We started by basically digging in and building a business, what they call a business capability model. So we went across these 6 different sort of areas of the business of the district, and we analyzed all of our use cases with SAP now. And how are we leveraging SAP? What are our pain points? What are the challenges we're running into? And basically really sort of gathering a complete picture of our requirements around the solution. This then allowed the Gartner folks to look at the various solutions that are available to us, kind of run it through this funnel, as we call, as they referred to it. The first criteria, which sort of reduced the number of options we're looking at, was we definitely want to go with a cloud solution. We also want to make sure that we're finding solutions that really meet public sector requirements. And those could be requirements around financial, regulatory, et cetera. It could just be basically, requirements for a utility, for instance. And then specifically filtering even more. So we want to only look at solutions that really met the criteria and are being used by local governments today. So running all the solutions out there and available to us through this filter, that really came down to 5 potential options. SAP obviously being the incumbent, Oracle Fusion, Workday, Infor, and Tyler. Tyler is the solution, just for full disclosure, that the Marin County ultimately adopted. In looking at these 5 options, you notice that the last 2 in the chart are really sort of the low cost solutions. If cost effectiveness and basically the price of acquisition was our number 1 criteria, these would be some pretty strong candidates. However, what we found in sort of digging into the capabilities of these platforms, they really lack the flexibility that the district requires. And they also lack functionality where we would have to supplement this solution with other solutions. So the financial picture gets a little more muddy as to whether those are actually viable options or not.
What's the difference in ratio of the numbers? We're talking 4-to-1 or 1-to-1, double the price?
Yeah, 2-to-1 to 3-to-1, 2.5, I think was the 2x was the factor. So, in light of the fact that those low cost options were probably not the best way for the district to go, we focused on the top three. And ultimately the recommendation from Gartner and looking at all these various components about, how well does it fit with our current processes? How well does the platform leverage modern technologies? What's the functional fit, et cetera? The ultimate recommendation from Gartner was to upgrade our current SAP solution. And they really found that there was no significant benefit for us to look at replacing SAP with another solution. So the good news is SAP S/4HANA is really it's ranked as kind of best in class in the Magic Quadrant for Gartner. There will be a much lower organizational impact and change impact in going to the platform. So kind of summarizing next steps, I've already mentioned the timeline that we're under in terms of the end of life for the current platform. Went over the various, the engagement with Gartner Consulting. The conclusion is restated there. I think the thing that's most relevant on this slide is the very last bullet point, their next steps. We are going to move quickly in the next couple months here to develop that transformational roadmap. Again, getting to the plan and why we're doing it. Identifying an integration partner and the implementation approach is going to be done in the fall. And hopefully we can, by the end of this calendar year, we can kind of be in full swing for implementation. And our projected go live would be July 1, 2026.
During that go live, we still have the old system running?
Correct.
So we have 100% parallel.
Yes.
In essence.
That is one of the luxuries that we kind of have in this particular case is we're not talking about a destructive upgrade. It would be done in parallel. And some of these systems integrators actually have some very, novel approaches to shortening the time frame of implementation, basically by doing sort of trial conversions and doing them iteratively, sort of an agile approach where you basically just, test, convert. How does it look? No good. Okay. Test, convert. How does it look? No good. And to keep doing that until you can improve and get to a point where, the conversion is 100% successful.
How much labor on our end is involved? I mean, is it like 80 hours a week for?
We are working through that now with Gartner, and part of the assessment was to give us sort of a TCO, which I think is being finalized now. So by next week, we'll have an actual.
What's that?
An actual total cost of ownership for the implementation and also a staffing model. So it's going to likely require a combination of external resources as well as internal resources, but we're sizing that up right now.
Yeah, I'm just curious, how much are you biting off here?
It's a big project.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. I know we've had.
Well, it looks great. I think where you came out is what my instinct was in the beginning, was to upgrade and go with SAP and HANA. So I don't see a real, it's the least risky approach and probably the best fit for our operation. So I'm with you on that. I'm happy about the 2026 launch date. That's a little faster than I think we had been told before. It'll be good to see where the budget comes out and if that's also on target or if that's shifted from what we approved in the last cycle.
Right.
Right. Maybe just hearing that we could do this in phases or in a test-based manner, I think also alleviates some of the concern over the low success rate that you flagged first. So as much as possible in terms of going through a very gradual process, seems to make sense.
Did you look into it all, how complex it will be to integrate AMI into these solutions?
So we haven't looked at that yet. I think that the good thing about, when we get a modern ERP platform is that they will, be able to handle an AMI type data a lot better, and it should be able to integrate much more with a customer portal type technology where it's cloud-based and log in, from any device anywhere. And so certainly, any modernization effort will get us, closer to that than we have now. And so this definitely checks the boxes. We'll be able to integrate with AMI.
Yeah, that was
I think my instinct is that it's not going to be as complex as we fear.
I don't know if it's a data complexity issue as much as it is a staffing resource complexity over time and kind of just a logistical, getting things in order at the right time. And so I think you're right. It's not going to be as complex on the data side as we might have initially thought.
Yeah, and there's so many people doing it. I mean, it can't be that bad. I think that you've made an excellent presentation.
Thank you.
And, thank you for that.
And just, is there any interface between our SCADA system and our existing ERP?
Not currently, no. So we are looking at with operations discussing, a tier 2 historian so that we can actually expose that data to other systems. But right now, no, they're very isolated.
And that's better?
I think, again, in terms of the drivers for this project, as we modernize our ERP, we're going to have some opportunities to potentially leverage the data that we're getting out of our SCADA systems for reporting, for instance, or correlating with other data in the system. And all of these modern platforms are going to be much more, easier to integrate in that sense.
Yeah, I think Jed is exactly right. I found that missing in that you showed that bar chart thing that showed by division. You had nothing about AMI in there. I think it should be there. That's one of the important ones. And a comment, Brad, for you only being here 6 months. I've been here 20 years and have worked as a consultant for this district since the mid 70s.
Oh my gosh.
Look at this building. It speaks to exactly what you're talking about. Not that there's anything wrong with the building. It's just 60s design. And does it do its job? Sure. Is it showing its age? Sure. Are there better alternatives? Probably. It's that kind of thinking I'm an engineer, and, it's the way we approach these things. It's very pragmatic. And we also operate on the basis of, hey, broke, don't fix it. So, you've got that. And trust me, that's embedded into the thinking here. Even though they may never say it, it's just how we are as engineers, the way we think. And we're cautious because we don't want to fight the water, fight the going upstream like the salmon. It's just too much work. It's easier to go downstream with the water flow. So, I think this is a good approach, and it looks to me like we're on the right track. I would have appreciated this update over the one we got at the board meeting 6 months ago or so. It was, you weren't here, so perhaps that's why. But I think that's really critical, is explaining the value. And it's interesting to me, like, do you think we would then have email access, board members? Would we be able to externally access the system? We're not allowed to right now. We cannot. Emails come to us and they get forwarded to our personal emails.
Right.
Because they're worried about security, that they don't want us tapping in. Does that change, you think, with this?
Consistent with what we're doing with ERP, we're going to be moving a lot of our business services to the cloud as well. And that's going to give us improved security, improved control, and ability to, open up access, I think, to other external, third parties and partners, as well as obviously board members. So, we're not going to be focused exclusively on the ERP project, although it will take precedence over most things.
Sure.
We're going to be moving to Microsoft 365 and cloud services. We'll be moving our email system off-prem also to the cloud. And again, I think the short answer is yes. We will be able to, we'll have more flexibility when it comes to that.
On a list of 1 to 1,000, it's down at 1,000, that problem I'm talking about. But it is frustrating.
Sure.
Every time that we get an email to respond to it, I have to contact Terry and get the source of the email, their email, to return to them. And then it comes back from my personal not from the district, even though it's district business. So it's a little tricky. What I normally find happens is I'm fired up when I get the email. And by the time we do all these machinations, I've lost the impetus to deal with it.
Yeah.
And then I just don't do anything. Whereas if it were there, I would have responded at the time if we were able to. So
Larry, I think Terry can help you get direct access to the Marine Water email without it having to go to your personal.
oh yeah. Okay. I will talk to her. Okay. Any public comment?
Yes, we have one. Mr. Larry Minikis, please. Let me mute you. Go ahead, sir.
Good morning. Interesting presentation. The one question with ERP moving to this new solution is the life cycle of solution. Is there a sense from SAP that this life cycle, because it's going to be cloud-based, will be more dynamic so that in 5, 10 years, whatever, we're not going to have to come back to the same issue that we're looking at today, which is completely move over to a new system? And that's my question this morning. Thank you.
Thank you. There are no further speakers.
Do we know what the annual fee is?
We're negotiating that now. I mean, there are various programs to incentivize us to move to the cloud platform, which would sort of ramp up that cost over time with some credits at the front end. But yeah, we will be, moving into negotiations now that we know the direction.
Yeah.
At this point.
Just keep in mind that they're a lot smarter than us
Yeah.
about this kind of thing.
And there is a premium to be paid for going to the cloud services. So I think
course.
there's kind of a misconception sometimes that the cloud is cheaper. That's not the case. It actually is usually more expensive than on-prem software. So,
Well, what do they draw 1/3 of the power of the United States to run their cooling systems, right? Or something like that. Okay. Thank you very much. Okay. With that, we're adjourned.